You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today's Friday. Everybody's been working for the weekend, and what do you know? Here it is. Got plans? If you're in the greater Phoenix area, I got to tell you, in Bisbee, there is a 3-day music festival. Something like 150 acts on 3 different stages. There's no hotel rooms in Bisbee, of course, because of the festival, but the festival itself is free. It's a few hours drive from Phoenix. We were going, but we can't because we have a sick dog. But if you're anywhere in Arizona, it's worth the trip. It's called the Side Pony Music Festival. It goes from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. today, tomorrow, and Sunday. Yep, true story. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. Now, that's reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1-week free trial. If you've not yet taken your 1-week free trial, when Michael joins us at the top of the hour, he'll walk you through step by step how to sign up for the trial. He'll get your indicators up and indicating today. Your trial will officially start Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern when the markets open, and will run all the way through next Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. There's no credit card required for the trial, nor do we need your mother's maiden name or your first pet. Haha. Okay. We try to make it as effortless and simple as possible. Now, when you take the trial, yes, you're getting access to the live training room 2 hours a day for 5 consecutive trading days, but we work around the clock. So while you're on the trial, we're going to treat you just like you were already a member, a passport holder. That means you'll not only have access to the live training room, you'll have access to everything we offer. All the alerts, the weekly zones, everything. Even the private one-on-one mentoring while you're on the trial. Again, no credit card required. Michael will walk you through the simple steps to sign up for the trial when he joins us at the top of the hour. Then he'll give us a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room, and then probably do a little trading, live trading during his time. Okay. Now, when the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break, and then we come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways you can join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. Going forward, what will happen, every trading day you'll get an email about an hour before this broadcast starts. In the email, there's a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, just click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit there is you have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there will be days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy, so you can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. But all you have to remember is youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there are over 2,900 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. youtube.com/CFRN. And if you're new to our neck of the woods, it's a great way to see how we've evolved over the years. Obviously, you don't need to watch them all, but it's a great resource to have at your fingertips. Okay. On the left side of the screen, you'll see our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. So let's get started where we always do with our daily devotional. Now, the topic that we're in, this is a 28-day devotional. It's the longest devotional topic we've ever had. The reason it's so long is because it's so important. It's about how to share your faith. Because you see, you're going to encounter people in your life as a believer that if you don't share the gospel with them, maybe no one else will. So there are eternal consequences, not for you, but for them. Our scripture today is Mark 5, verses 1 through 20. I'm going to share with you from the NIV translation. They went across the lake to the region of Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." So this guy didn't just have one demon. He had a legion. And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." He gave them permission. And the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Now let me pause for a second here. Somebody owned those 2,000 pigs. I mean, that was their generational wealth. Back in the day, that many pigs, that was worth a lot. We don't ever hear about the owner of the pigs. But I've always wondered about that poor fellow. One day he wakes up wealthy and then not so much. But back to the scripture. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told them about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. So our topic today, amazing works. I would say that's pretty amazing, right? It wasn't surprising that the man's story amazed the people who knew him. After all, he was delivered from severe demonic oppression and a life of insanity. Anyone who knew him could see how much his life had changed. If you have experienced Jesus' saving work, then he has done amazing things for you as well. Is it not amazing to have the guilt of all your sins forgiven? Or how about being given eternal life so that you may begin to experience it now and in fullness forever when you die? Being loved unconditionally by God is certainly amazing. And this is just the beginning of a list of amazing things that God has done for you. Ephesians 1:3. Our conversations with others should include a sampling of what God has done for us. See, when we begin to share our faith with other people, we've already talked, we start with a question. Where are you spiritually? What's happening? Maybe they're New Age. Maybe they're an atheist. Maybe they're a Presbyterian. Who knows? But people love to talk about themselves. So that's a great way to open the door to the conversation you want to have, is by simply asking a question, right? And based on their answer, well, the conversation can go in a number of different directions. But it's important that we share with that person, if they're not a believer or believe in some other insane thing, just let them know what God's done for you. See, this way you don't have to memorize some list. I mean, you've lived your own life. You know, most of us don't come to Jesus when we're on the mountaintop. It's when we reach the end of ourselves that we find the beginning of God. So, really, just tell your story. I'm going to tell you, man, I was tore up from the floor up. I was in the bar every morning at 6 a.m. the second they opened. Couldn't keep a job, blah, blah. Then something changed. Now you got their interest. Because maybe they know you and know that you're now a successful businessman or woman, and they're like, well, what happened? How did you go from being that guy to this guy? See how that door just swung wide open? Okay. If the greatest thing that has happened to you is coming to know Christ, then the greatest thing you can do for someone else is to introduce them to Christ. I want to encourage you over the weekend, Make a list of amazing things God has done in your life. Consider how each would sound to a person who has not yet experienced God's work. How could you express each in a way that reveals its truly amazing nature? That's your homework. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for the power that sets the captives free. You bring peace where there was torment, purpose where there was despair. Help us all remember that no one is beyond your reach. No situation is beyond your power. Use us to share the story of your mercy, just as the healed man did in the scripture we read, so that others may know the freedom found in you. It's in your mighty name that we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Friday. Now, if you're looking at the markets, you're probably not too happy. Unless you happen to be a futures trader and realize that you can make money faster when the market's going down than when it's going up. But I'll save that for another day. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. That's a great place to start. We'll start with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. Currently the Dow is down 312 points. The Nasdaq's down 403. That's 1.75%. S&P 500 is down 69 points. That's a little over 1%. And the Russell 2000, our man in the street, down 37 points. That's over 1.5%. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 39 cents, make that 38 cents. Trading 59.81 last. Gold up $15.40. Trading 4,640 last. Silver up a penny. Trading 47.95 last. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei fell 607 points, almost 1.25%. Shanghai dropped 10. The Hang Seng fell 244, almost 1%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 53, the DAX down 164, the CAC down 14. So we had a red day in Asia. It was a red day for the UK, and it's a big red Radio Friday here in the US of A. And it's going to be a red week. And when we go to the daily chart of the S&P, when I bring up the charts, that thing we've been talking about looks like it's going to happen today. Now, it was back in, March or May? May, we went from bearish to bullish, and every pullback has held. But today may be the day where we go from our bullish stance, big picture, to bearish. So, let's go to the news. The Federal Aviation Administration is reducing flight capacity by 10% at 40 major airports beginning today. The cuts were prompted by staffing shortages as air traffic controllers and TSA agents approach 6 weeks unpaid amid the government shutdown, which is now the longest ever. The reductions could affect over 268,000 passengers on roughly 1,800 domestic flights daily and will continue until safety data improves. Controllers who have missed one paycheck since the shutdown began October 1st are set to miss another one next week and have increasingly been calling in sick. Most were already working mandatory 6-day work weeks due to chronic staffing shortages. Over 6,200 flights were delayed and 500 were canceled last Friday, marking the single worst day for delays since the shutdown began. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy attributed roughly 65% of those delays to controller staffing, compared to the usual 5%. Travelers began receiving cancellation notices yesterday, and several airlines have temporarily eased refund policies. Now, here's a trick, and it hinges on what I just said. Several airlines have eased refund policies. Last night on the news, somebody they were interviewing had this suggestion. Book your flight, on one airline, and then book a similar flight that leaves just a little bit later with another airline. If you actually get on the first one, then immediately on your phone app, cancel the other reservation and request a refund. Don't accept an airline voucher. Just say, I won't, because that's what they're going to go, oh yeah, no problem, we'll refund it. We'll send you a voucher. No, please, just put the money back on my card. Check with the airline that you're booking that second standby flight. See, you're creating your own standby flight. So if you end up having to use the standby flight, that means the first flight you booked, the one that got canceled or delayed for too long, they have to give you your money back. But they're also going to try to give you a voucher. Just say, no, I'll pass on the voucher because we don't know how long this thing's going to last. So, okay, moving on. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced yesterday that she will not run for re-election next year. The decision signals the end of Pelosi's career as one of the most powerful women and inside traders in American politics. Pelosi has represented the San Francisco area since 1987. In 2001, she won a competitive race to become the number 2 ranked Democrat in Congress and became Minority Leader the following year. When Democrats won the House in 2006, Pelosi became the country's first female House Speaker. In that capacity, she steered the Affordable Care Act through Congress. Now, how many of you remember what she said? Because, of course, Republicans are like, well, what's in that package? She said, these were her words. If you want to know what's in the package, vote yay, and then you can read it. My, how times have changed, right? Pelosi's retirement is expected to kick off a heated primary race between at least 2 Democrats, State Senator Scott Wiener and progressive former tech executive Saket Chakrabarty. The Florentine diamond, a 137-carat yellow gemstone once belonging to the Austro-Hungarian Habsburg imperial family, has resurfaced in a Canadian bank after being thought missing for more than a century. Descendants reveal that Empress Zita secretly safeguarded the jewel, entrusting her 2 sons with its location and requiring the secret to be kept for 100 years after Emperor Charles I's death in 1922. The diamond, long the subject of speculation, has a history tied to European royalty. First documented with Florence's Medici family in the 17th century, before passing to the Habsburgs. It was assumed lost or stolen amid the collapse of the empire around 1918, when Charles I, a nephew of Franz Ferdinand, fled Vienna. Escaping Nazi persecution, the family relocated to Canada during World War II, bringing the diamond with them alongside the other family jewels. The descendants said the diamond will remain in Canada in gratitude for sheltering the exiled family and will be displayed publicly. I'd be careful about it. Well, I guess the gang in France, they're in Paris, they're all locked up now. I think they got them all. Consumer sentiment drops to a 3-year low as Americans worry about this shutdown. Overall sentiment dropped to 50.3, about a 6% decline from October, according to the University of Michigan's preliminary survey of consumers. The pullback was led by respondents' worsening outlook for their own current personal finances and expectations for year-ahead business conditions, leaving the index of consumer sentiment down nearly 30% from a year ago, and the lowest since 2022, when Biden ran the White House. Now, this Michigan survey of consumer sentiment, they don't use any fancy algorithms. They don't like churn a lot of data to come up with this number. They take students attending the University of Michigan and they put them in a call center. And they literally just call people up out of the phone book and say, "Hi, I'm from the University of Michigan, and I'd like to ask you a couple questions. What do you think about the economy? Are you happy? Are you sad?" Right? The student ticks the proper boxes and then makes the next phone call. Now, the University of Michigan realized some years ago that they could probably make a pretty penny selling that information ahead of the release of government data, which does churn all the data and run all the algorithms, because this is straight from the people's mouth, right? Pretty clever, whoever figured that out. But again, before you put too much into that report, keep in mind how it's created. All right, next, OpenAI isn't preparing for a public debut, at least not yet. With complex and seemingly insatiable financial needs, its executives are doubtless content without the disclosures and instant quantifiable judgment that come with trading on the open market. It is doing something in public, however, and at the very least is vying for broad public support as it pitches itself as a national strategic asset that the U.S. government should cherish and protect. And so far, dealing with the public attention from its pitch has been somewhat of an ordeal. So don't look for any company, any AI company, to attempt to go public anytime soon. There's a whole lot of scrutiny there. Wendy's, if that's your favorite fast food place, is set to close hundreds of locations across the U.S. as part of its turnaround plan. We mentioned earlier in the week that Pizza Hut is considering selling off the entire chain. There's another place Outback Steakhouse closing a bunch of locations. And now Wendy's. Interim CEO Ken Cook announced Friday today that a mid-single-digit percentage of Wendy's approximately 6,000 U.S. locations could close which would amount to around 200 to 350 restaurants. The affected locations are those that are consistently underperforming and dragging down the chain's overall performance. It's all about the numbers. Amazon today expanded the reach of its low-cost e-commerce service to 14 additional markets and will call it Amazon Bazaar. Now, not bazaar as in, man, that's weird, but bazaar as in like a flea market. Yeah. This is part of a push to compete with Chinese rivals, including Shine. Remember earlier in the week we mentioned Shine? That's the company that makes the blow-up dolls for pedophiles. Yeah. And PDD Holdings Temu, where I have actually bought some pretty cool stuff. The expansion of the service comes at a time when U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping import tariffs are denting consumer sentiment, especially lower-income groups who are on a constant hunt for cheaper deals. The new app, similar to Amazon Haul, will deliver a majority of products priced under $10 and some as low as $2, ranging from home goods to fashion, according to the e-commerce giant. Some of the newer markets for the low-cost e-commerce service include Hong Kong, the Philippines, and Taiwan. You know, I wondered how long it was going to take for this to happen. Most of you, all of you regulars, know that we have an orphanage in Kampala, Uganda, East Africa. We broke ground way back in 2000. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years. But right now, to send like a small 5-pound package via UPS International or whatever other international carriers there are, it's like $50 to ship actually, it doesn't have to be 5 pounds. An overnight letter runs. I think not an overnight letter, it's like a 2-day letter. I think it's more than $50. The last time we had to send one, I forget why we had to do it, but it was expensive. And it's been that way since we opened the orphanage. We got clever one time and decided to send a container. We thought, well, we can't pay these, so we're gonna be smart. We're gonna send a container full of stuff. I mean, there was medical equipment, dental equipment, a lot of really expensive stuff in there. Okay, so we load up the container, the ship sails away, but once it gets to Africa, every government official on the continent had their hand out. It took us a year to get that container out of the impound lot. And by the time we got it out and actually got it to Kampala, we had spent more in bribes than the value of the merchandise inside the container. Now, that's a true story. Moving on. The most talked about and market-moving research calls around Wall Street are now in one place. Here are today's research calls that investors need to know as compiled by the Fly. Exactly as it sounds. Remember the movie, The Fly? Okay, well, there's an analyst firm out there called The Fly. I think it's as like, the fly on the wall. They upgraded Datadog, or they're reporting on it. KeyBank upgraded Datadog to overweight from sector weight with a $230 price target. Benchmark upgraded Trade Desk to buy from hold with a $65 price target. Now that trade desk, TTD, it did really good for a while. Might be something to look at. Oppenheimer upgraded JFrog. Macquarie upgraded Unity. Piper Sandler upgraded Expedia. But there were also downgrades. Williams Trading downgraded Canada Goose. Needham downgraded CarMax. Needham downgraded Penn Entertainment. Goldman Sachs downgraded Sweetgreen. And UBS downgraded Cogent. Now, I'll say one thing about these analyst upgrades and downgrades. In my life, the history of what I've seen is that stocks tend to get upgraded right near their high, and they get downgraded right near their low. Maybe it's just me, but John used to agree with that. For those of you that remember John. All right, turning from Wall Street to Capitol Hill. In the wake of Democrats sweeping Virginia's 3 statewide offices and adding to their majority in the House of Delegates this past Tuesday, many conservatives I know are downhearted, disillusioned, and depressed. Fingers begin to feel like pointing. And to extrapolate on the old expression, victory has 100 fathers, but defeat is an orphan. I'll add that defeat does seem to have many cousins telling it where it went wrong. But not to sound like a Pollyanna, we need to remember the good in this Commonwealth and in this country. Today, so many are looking for positive things in the conservative world to reinforce their belief that the future can still be filled with American exceptionalism. The only thing holding us back is all the Democrats that hate America. Why don't they just move? Rosie's got room for them. With so much of the legacy media's focus spent on smearing Israel these days, you probably haven't heard a ton about the ongoing massacres in Nigeria. Islamists have murdered tens of thousands of defenseless Christians, displacing around 15 million people from their homes. Medieval sexual violence and torture are regularly practiced by Islamist militants who also recruit children into their terrorist army. Thousands of churches and schools have been burned down. Catholic priests are regularly targeted for kidnapping. The victims of Boko Haram and other Islamist groups in Nigeria aren't members of any army. Yet as far as I know, there's been no college protest or rallies in the streets of American cities decrying the systemic ethnic cleansing by Muslim forces. The Israel-obsessed right-wing podcasters who claim to stand for Christian values and decency barely, if ever, mention the slaughter of their co-religionists. They're too busy with another topic. In Sudan, another civil war has broken out. Around 150,000 civilians have been murdered so far, while around 12 million have been displaced from their homes. Again, Christians, along with non-Arab minorities, are among the most vulnerable. Pray for those people. Most of you know who Victor Davis Hansen is. He's a senior fellow at that one place. You know what? I don't have time to give you the whole thing. But if you'll go and listen to his podcast today, Victor Davis Hansen, just Google it. Comey knew Clinton had cooked up the collusion hoax. And as Pelosi leaves stage left, she leaves behind a losing legacy. When the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act came up on the House floor on April 5th of 2000, it had significant bipartisan support. 16 Democrats co-sponsored the bill and 77 voted for it. As explained in its official summary, the bill would prohibit an abortion in which the person performing the abortion deliberately and intentionally vaginally delivers some portion of an intact living fetus until the fetus is partially outside the body of the mother for the purpose of performing an overt act that the person knows will kill the fetus while the fetus is partially outside the mother's body. And 2, performs the overt act that kills the fetus while the intact living fetus is partially outside the mother's body. One Democrat who did not vote for this bill, designed to protect these innocent human lives, was none other than Nancy Pelosi of California. She went down to the House floor and spoke out against it. I rise in strong opposition to the so-called Partial Birth Abortion Act. I would not want to be standing next to you on Judgment Day. And Republican, this is our final bit of news, Republican U.S. Representative Elise Stefanik is running for governor of New York. Her campaign announced it today. In a video, Stefanik called Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul the worst governor in America. I agree. And called New York the most unaffordable state in the nation. I also agree. Stefanik, who represents a solid red congressional district, which is rare in upstate New York, has for months teased a run for governor, leveling heavy criticism at Hochul and more recently toward the communist in New York City, Zohran Mamdani. I better stop there. I might go on a tirade. That's not what you came for. Let's look at the local news. Something positive. Logic 247 is our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. It's not just E-minis, it's also crude, gold, silver. We're currently in week 379. That's a little over 7 years. Over the last 379 weeks, we have issued over 20,900 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out, based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, so this afternoon she'll finalize everything for the week. But since the markets opened this past Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we issued 65 logic alerts, not to be confused with the CTAs, they're two different animals. 65 logic alerts. At the time of the recap, we were still waiting on the outcome of 21. That gave us 44 actionable alerts, of which 6 or 14% would have been stopped out. Again, just based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. What is this simple process? We teach you how to read a chart. That's the purpose of the logic alerts. Sure, you can trade them, but if you never trade a Logic 247 alert, why don't you just use them to learn how to read the chart? Because if you want to learn how to trade, I'm telling you that ain't going to happen until you learn how to read a chart. Now, the logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. But long before we had Logic 247, years before, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. They're very different. They're different in a lot of ways, but for the purpose of this discussion, I'm just going to point out one thing. They don't come out around the clock. They're posted as a static report 5 minutes ahead of the Globex Open each evening. The Friday session we're in right now began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. But all of our traders had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. Now, with the logic alerts, you get an entry price, an initial target, additional targets, and a final trade to target. The CTAs are a bigger picture thing. Like I said, they're different in a lot of ways. But now, of course, the logic alerts, you have them long before they trigger. And you have the CTAs long before they get hit. Okay. S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. Now, as we go through the individual charts of each of these markets, and you see these targets drawn on the chart, just remember, all of our traders had the targets 5 minutes before the market opened. Okay? Okay. With that, we can go to the charts. And we'll start where we always do, with the daily chart of the S&P 500. Now, yes, it's a big red day, but there's greater significance than meets the naked eye. You see, we have opened below that green line. And it looks like we're going to close below it. And let me put that in context. If we go back here to February the 3rd, no, I'm sorry, March 4th, we had a candle open and close below the green line. It's called the BBC. It just stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish. When it crosses above the green line, we're bullish. Okay? So, on this day, we opened and closed below the BBC, and price always reverts to the mean. You've probably heard that before. Maybe you don't know what it means. In our case, the mean is green. We call it the BBC. And as you can see, the pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held, until this day, April 25th. We opened and closed above the BBC. So we went from a bearish state of mind, big picture, to a bullish state of mind. Now, as I said, price always reverts to the mean. Okay? So these ones that pulled up from below, pullback held and held until it didn't. Pullback held, pullback held, pullback held, pullback held. As long as the candles are touching the green line, the pullback held is holding. Okay. Pullback held, pullback held, pullback held. And then we had recently a 6-day pullback. Notice every one of these 6 candles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is actually touching the green line. As long as it's touching the green line, it's considered held. It held, okay? So we put in, after holding for 6 days, we then went on to put in a new all-time historic high. We had this huge gap 2 Sundays ago, and it took exactly 6 days for that gap to fill. Okay, now we closed below the BBC yesterday. We opened last night at 6 p.m. Eastern below. See, it's not touching. And does it look to you like we're going to close below the BBC today? Yeah, and we got a whole lot of red and falling chasing price. Okay? So, Wall Street's calling for a 10% correction over 12 to 24 months. That would put us down around 6,100. If it takes 12 to 24 months to get there, that's really no big deal. But my fear is it's going to happen in a couple days or maybe even in a week. That can create a lot of pain points. But the beauty of futures is you can make more money in a down market faster than in an up market. For price to rise requires financial commitment. But for price to fall, all it requires is for the institutional traders to hit pause on the buy side. If nobody's standing on the bid, then the hedge funds that specialize in short selling, they come out of the woodwork and they just start hammering that thing down. It's like free money almost, because there's no opposition. They just sell, 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 sell. So, this is a big day, not just because it's a big red down day, but because we've lost contact with BBC. Now, we've been in bull mode since, I already told you, since April 25th. Now here it is, November 7th. And we may be about to officially go back into bear mode. As long as we close today without touching that green line, that's the deal. Okay, all the alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's just the time frame I chose years ago. Stuck with it. The vertical line separates today, Friday, from Thursday. If I scroll back, you'd see Wednesday, Tuesday. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones. They're published Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. When price rallies up to a weekly trading zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. And this is what until proven otherwise looks like. So, last night we opened below the BBC. That means we're expecting lower prices. And by 8:30, we hit the short target at 67.43. So, remember, these targets, all of our members had them 5 minutes ahead of the open. Now, when the market finds support, it's naturally going to go look for resistance. Remember, the pullback holds more often than not. Resistance will send the market looking for support, which it initially found again at the short target. I mean, just this one candle here opened at 67.52 and dropped 9 points to 67.43. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Then we traded through the short target and continued down to this week's lowest weekly trading zone. Now, we've published the zones every week since December 14th of 2009. The 14th of next month will mark 16 years. Okay? Now, when we get outside of the zones, by close of business on Friday, see, this is the lowest weekly zone for the S&P this week. We're slightly below it. But based on 16 years of history, our expectation is that by close of business today, price will somehow find a way to get back to 66.83 or above as the markets close for the week at 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, have there ever been weeks where price closed below the lowest weekly zone or above the highest weekly zone? Yes. Over 16 years, it's 52 weeks in a year. I'm going to say 20, 30 times. I don't know. The Dow is in a similar situation. Here's where we opened last night. Up to the BBC, resistance, and then we drop. Okay. And we found support right here. Now look left. You see this little area right here? You see that? See the step line? You see where it crossed red and falling right there? Now, when the step line, look, coming down, the black step line and red and falling were running parallel. But once the step line crosses to the right side of red and falling, we expect a retracement to the BBC. Exactly what happened. And the pullback held, right? Then we hit blue and climbing, which is bullish. See how red and falling turned to blue and climbing? So we go back to the BBC. Again, resistance sends us lower. And look right here where this crossed. You see it? Look at the horizontal line on my cursor. It's this exact low right here. That's market structure. That's what we'll teach you that nobody else will. Support sends us to resistance. Resistance sends us to support. And see how we consolidate here along the short target. And then finally, this morning at 10 o'clock, was that 10? No. This was the 9:30 opening candle. We ran all the way down to the lowest weekly zone, support, which bounced us back up to the BBC, resistance, which sent us through the lowest weekly zone. Now, if this black step line crosses red and falling, then price is going to attempt to retrace to the BBC. So I would say that there's a pretty decent chance by close of business today, price will be at or above the lowest weekly zone. The Russell is already back above the lowest weekly zone after its short dance outside. Last week, I think it was, the NQ got above the highest weekly zone for like 3 days. But by close of business on Friday, it was well below the highest weekly zone. So, this was the open last night. Just kind of ran sideways, and then we dropped and hit the short target to the tick. And what's the short target based on? This low right here. We hit it to the tick, bounced us up into resistance. Resistance is always going to send the market looking for support. We bounced off the short target again right there. See, we already hit the short target once. Then we hit it again. Get a little bounce. And then down we go. And we spike the weekly trading zone. We spike it again. We trade below it. But look what's happening. Price is now back above the lowest weekly zone and is headed for the BBC. Pullback holds more often than not. But we don't know if this pullback's going to hold or not. We have to be patient and see, and then trade accordingly. On our smaller time frame, we execute on a range chart for surgical precision, but only with the bigger picture knowledge of what's happening in the market. Now the NQ, that's going to be tough to recover. This is the lowest weekly zone. We opened here last night. We dropped to blue and climbing, which is bullish. So it gave us a little bump, which quickly failed. And we hit the short target. Okay. Now, this candle opened at 248. Dropped 15 points to the target. That little spot right there. Come on, give me the open again. The open of that candle. 248 to 33. That's 15 points at $20 a point. That little bit of wick. It's $300 per contract traded. Then we consolidated at the zone. Pull back to the BBC. Pull back holds. And now we find ourselves well below the lowest weekly trading zone. Now the ES, the Dow, and the Russell's already recovered. ES and YM look like they could recover. The NQ, hey, anything's possible, but you see the step line has crossed red and falling? And look what's happening. Price is trying to get back to the BBC. Okay, so that covers all of the indices. When I come back, we will go to crude and talk about that. Right now, though, Michael is going to give us a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. Do a little live trading, perhaps, and then I'll come back. I'll finish the recap with the remaining markets, crude, gold, and silver, and then wrap things up with our good word for today.
All right. Excellent.
Okay, let me center your chart here on the big screen. There it is. Looks good.
All right. And I put that that version
I saw
of
that.
DT Pro there for you too.
I saw that. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. All right, let's just get to the end of all of this stuff and bring this up. Here it is. Looky there. It's coming back. Coming back. All right. Sorry, I did a lot of stuff during the break. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the 7th day of November, 2025. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button right here. There is no credit card required for the trial. Just click on that purple button. It's going to bring you to this registration page where all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. Name, email, phone number. Down here at the bottom, make sure you give us a TradingView login ID if you want to have your charts indicating the indicators that we have. Give us that TradingView login ID. All right. All right. So let's see. We have the spreadsheet. Now, I did a lot of talking this morning, so I didn't do as much trading as I normally do. I was 33 trades, and we ended with a couple of stop outs too, I think. So that took us down a little bit. But as things went, I ended up with minus 57 on the NQ. Now, if you can read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. I ended up with minus 57 on the NQ, plus 46 on the YM, plus 28 on gold, and plus 37 on the S. Again, that's all with one contract. So that put us at 687.50 gross with one contract. Today it took 2 minutes and two trades to get to $1,700 with 10 contracts. Now with one contract, it was $170. And we took a total of 33 trades this morning. So with 10 contracts, that is 330 round trips I had this morning. We had 5 stop outs, right? So today we averaged 84.8% of our trades were break even or better today. On the month now, that puts us at 2,097 over 2 business days. So we're averaging $1,048 per contract per 2-hour business day. That's a little lower than I like it. I want to be over $1,200, but that's where we are right now. On the year, we're at 232,910 over 192 business days, averaging $1,213 per contract per 2-hour business day. Following the 2420 blueprint, I need the question box up. If anybody has any questions, just type into the question box, okay? We try to answer everybody's questions, and the only people who can see what you type in are me and Dwayne. So don't be afraid to type anything in. All right. All right. Following the 2420 blueprint so far this year, you would have only had to work 27 hours, 27.05. If you did everything exactly like I did, you'd be at your 11th contract right now. And, oh wow. You'd be at your 11th contract right now, and you'd be up $181,942. All right, if you did everything exactly like I did, so you'd be averaging $6,726 per hour. Not bad. Now, when we started with 13 contracts in 2024, 13 to August, so when we went from 13 to 20, we only averaged 7,521. This year we started with 1 contract, and we're averaging 6,726. You can see the difference in the efficiency. 10 contracts is a great number to work with. Anyway, let's get into the trades. We had the most trades today. They're pretty much equal across. Gold had the fewest, it looks like. And the rest of them, I guess the YM had the most. Let's just start out with the gold and we'll see what we did and didn't do. And here it is. I did not mark up all the trades on gold, it looks like. Well, maybe I did. Here we go. All right, our first trade on gold was right here. We picked up 2 ticks on that one. Then we had a break even. Then this was a mistake right here, but I picked up 1 tick on that. That got us 3. No, I'm sorry. I picked up Yeah, I picked up one tick on that. That was a break even. I picked up one tick on that, got us to 3. And then the next one went to 13. And after that, we went to 23. And then did nothing for a while, for a long while. Did nothing. And I don't have the last trade. On the last trade, we went from 23 to 28. So I had a 5-tick trade somewhere that I didn't work during the break. Okay, so I'm going to go through this quickly, the stuff that triggered during the break that I didn't do. Now, what I'm looking for, as I scan through here, I'm looking for things that the midpoint is flat, and if it's green, midpoint is flat and the bar closes from the bottom up above the midpoint. If that happens, then I look down here at the bottom and see if it's pulled out of the oversold. Okay, so like right here, all these did that. They crossed above the midpoint and closed above it, but none of those pulled out of the oversold, so none of those were trades. All the way through here, there's nothing. All the way to right here, that's nothing. All the way to this one right here, I think. Yep, right here. This one crossed over the midpoint from the bottom, and it came out of the oversold. That's the first trade right there. That's a valid trade. It has to be flat on the bar before. The midpoint has to be flat on the bar before. Okay, so there's nothing there. And then we go into the shorts, and it looks like this right here would have been a valid short for that leg down. And we go back to the longs, nothing in there. Go back to the shorts, nothing in there. Go back to the longs. This would have been a valid long right there. All right, then go back to the shorts. This would have been a valid short. This would have been a valid short. Both of those, all those would have worked. Scanning, this would have been a valid short. That would have worked out really well. This would not have been, so nothing after that. You see right in here, because that was not a valid trade and it didn't go all the way into the oversold, none of these other ones would have mattered. Right, it has to go all the way down to the oversold and then come back up, and then it switched sides. So this would have been a valid trade right here, a long trade, right? Then another short right there. So far, all these trades are working out. This right here would have been a valid trade. Nothing through here because we didn't finish the cycle. And this right here would have been a valid trade, just enough to go to break even. This right here would have been a valid trade, but a really nice trade on gold. That would not have been. That would have been right there. That's not the kind that I really like, though. I like it if it's not coming from a separate bar. I like it to go up and down in the same bar. All right. I'll give you an example. Like this one right here, where it came out of the oversold. This was below and crossed up above on the same bar. Right? Didn't have a bar before it that crossed down. It was a full bar below it before. Right there, that would have been a trade right there. That would have been a trade right there. All of those would have been good trades. And that's it. That was it for gold. So we ended up on gold with plus 28 ticks. But all those other ones trade during the break. Now the YM is what we had the most trades on, oddly. I'm going to hit control and back to get back to the beginning of this because I took a long time with the gold right there. So I'm holding down the control button and the back arrow. That's what's making it go so fast. I'm watching the time down at the bottom to get to 9:30. And we're almost there. And there we are. All right. So our first trade in here on the YM was a plus 2. Then our next trade was another 2 to get us to 4. Then our next trade was a 10 to get us to 14. We had a break even, and then we stopped out. That was minus 15 right there. That put us down to minus 1. Then we had a plus 2 right there. That got us to plus 1, and a plus 19. That got us up to 20. Break even. Then we went from 20 to 30 and 30 to 35. And then now it's not saying there were no trades in there. There were a ton of trades in there. It's just not trades that I took. I'm just scanning the trades that I took. Went from 35 to 36. And then we had one more trade. Right there, 36 to 46. And that is where we ended it for the YM. Now, during the break on the YM, we had a long trade right here on the YM. This was a short, yeah, we had a short Short trade right there, that would have been just enough to get you stopped to break even. A long trade right here would have been okay. Yeah, nothing through there. I think this didn't go full cycle right here, so this would not be a trade here. That did go full cycle, so this would have been a trade right here, and that would have stopped you out. Continuing through, this would have been a trade right here. Nice trade. A lot of movement in there, but no valid trades. Nope. Nothing. Flip directions. Nothing. Nothing. Right here would have been a trade right there. So that leg down right in here. That would have been a trade right there. Change directions right here. That would have been a long trade. That would have been a valid long trade there too. It would have been a break even if I'd have gotten it. See, this is the kind that I don't like, where you have a full bar below and then you get the one that crosses above. That would have been a valid trade. No, it wouldn't have. Sorry, it came out of the oversold right here on that bar. That wouldn't have been a valid trade. It's got a cross on the bar that comes out of the oversold. So this would have been a valid trade right here. That would have been break even. And that's it on the YM. We ended up with, on the YM, plus 46. Okay. Now the ES. Let's drag the ES back here. We did actually get the goal for the day with the ES this morning. Our first trade on the ES. No, I didn't mark it properly, but it was right here, I think. No, it wasn't there. It was right here, I think, somewhere over here. It was at 9, what did I say, 2 minutes. It was at 9:29. It was right here. This is where it was, right here. Right there is where it was. We got 12 ticks on that. So the 12 ticks on that coupled with the 2 ticks on gold got us up to 170 for the gold. So that's our first trade on the ES. We got 12 ticks there. Then we picked up 13 more over here to get us to 25. Then went from 25 to 33. Then 33 to 35, and 35 to 37. Those are all those small ticks, those small trades that Dwayne was talking about. You could have stayed in them a little longer, most of them a little longer for more profit, but I was trailing my stop pretty aggressively. So at that point, we were up at 37, and right here, we went to 38. Then finally, we went to 46. We had an 8-tick trade right there, and we stopped out. Bam. We went somewhere from 46 to 47. And then we stopped out and went from 47 down to 37, right there. Right, so somewhere in here we had a 1-tick trade, went from 46 to 46 to 47. Then we stopped out and went down to 37. Now, during the break, let's see what we had. There was a trade right here. That would have been okay. Right here, that would have been okay. Right there, that would have been a break even. That would have been a trade because none of these made it full cycle down here, so nothing in here would have been good. This right here would have been an okay trade right there. Good to take. And that was it. So there's some decent trades there during the break, a few of them, not too many. All right, now the NQ. And we didn't have the most trades on the NQ. We kind of got our butt handed to us on the NQ today. Let's go back to the beginning. Still scrolling. There you go. Now we started out on the NQ with the 19 range, but we flipped it to 9 range because it was just crazy on the 19 range this morning. So the first trade that we took on the NQ on the 19 range, we stopped out and we had minus 24 ticks on that one. Right. Then it went crazy for a little while, and then 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, really, we took another trade and we had a plus 1 tick on that. Then I think we switched to the 39 range. And here we went from, so we were at minus 24, then went to minus 23. Then we took one more right here, got us to minus 22. Then we stopped out again right there. And that brought us all the way from minus 22 to minus 70. So I had horrible slippage on that stop. Then we picked up 1 tick there to get us to minus 69. then 45 ticks there to get us to minus 21. That was the high of the day for us right there, minus 21 after that 45 tick trade right there. Then we stopped out again, put us at minus 57. And that is where we ended up with the NQ for the morning. Whew. Now, what happened during the break? Well, there was a trade right here that would have been just enough to get the stop to break even. Trade right here, that would have been a nice trade. Nope, none of that would have qualified. None of that, none of that. That was it. There wasn't a ton of trades there on the NQ. No, not on the 39 range. Now it's slowed down a bit. I could probably go back to the 19 range, and I think I will. Right now, we'll probably get a chance to take more trades on 19 range. I got to change my DOM back to be a 19 range bracket. And I'll show you in just a second. Hang on. Let me go make sure those don't come on. Okay. That looks good. Looks good. All right. So I'm back to a 19 range bracket. Now, with the 39 range, I used the 31 range bracket for the 39 range this morning. So on one of the stops, I actually had a 48 tick stop instead of a 36 tick stop. On one of the stops, I had like a 20 something tick stop instead of 36 tick stop. It's just the way it worked out this morning. But I did have a 48 tick profit target, and I did get one of those today, 48 tick. All right, so we're back to a 19 range right now. And so with the 19 range, it's 5 points from the top or bottom of the bar that you want to have your order waiting, right? So here we go. Right here, we just had to trade on gold. It didn't go anywhere, so we're going to wait and see what comes out of that. And let me say this, it's 1:17, so I have about 13 minutes left. If you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go ahead to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button right here. There's no credit card required for the trial. No credit card required for the trial. Just click on that purple button. It's going to bring you to the registration page. Fill it out. Now, mark C. I see you're in here. You were in the morning session too. If you fill out that right now, I will be able to get to you and get your stuff indicating, get your indicators indicating on your chart today. And so you can get in there on Monday morning with us at the beginning of the day on Monday morning. But you can play with it all weekend if you want to. Okay. All right. So right now we need to make the full cycle here. We came out of the overbought down here and it didn't make it up into the, we came out of the oversold and it didn't make it into the overbought. So it needs to make a full cycle before we'll take another trade. This is what I was trying to describe this morning. If you take one right here, take this, and you get your stop to break even, or it stops you out. You don't want to take another one until it's gone full cycle because it ends up being in chop like this. Okay, you want to let it go full cycle before you take another trade. And that's what we're waiting for now. It's almost there. And up close on this bar, we'll do full cycle, and then we can start looking for long trades again. Okay. And if you want your DOMs to be set up like this, then we got into the overbought. Now we've gone full cycle from the oversold to the overbought, so we can start looking for long trades again on the gold. If you want your DOMs to look like that, then go here to trading platforms. Download this. It's got my chart book in it and everything else. It's got the TIQD's chart book in it. It'll have all the DOMs with all the brackets that I have set up, preset brackets. Okay, so now we could have a trade here on the gold. Right now, it has a low of 11.6, so I'm going to buy 12.6 right now. Okay, here it is. Window always on top, and as long as that, it's now 11.5, and as long as it does not go below 11.1, then we'll still have a trade here. So I'm going to drop that down, I think 2 ticks right now, right? Did it hit 0.4? Yeah, 11.4. Okay, it has gone too far down now. It's not going to be a trade. Cancel. Now, if it has an up close, it'll be below the midpoint, so I'm not interested. It's going to flip the YBR right here on the YM. All the other ones have already flipped the YBR. This hasn't gone full cycle. This has gone full cycle. So this needs to pull back. This needs to go up some more. And we just flipped the YBR on the YM, and we're flipping the YBR on the gold the other way right now. Okay. We want this, get down there into the oversold. There it is right there. Now we want an up close on this right now on the YM. It's got a low here. Oh, there it is. I'm just going to jump on it right there. Right, I just got filled on the YM. There it is. And after that goes 5 ticks into profit, it will automatically bump my stop like that. I'm going to lock in 1 tick so I don't lose any money. And this was actually a trade over here on the ES as well. Okay, on the ES was also a trade. I got my 1 tick out of the YM. And the ES, here it is. All right, that hasn't gone to 4 ticks into profit. The ES goes to break even after 4 ticks in profit. So I got 1 little tick on this guy. Put this window on top. 1 little tick on that guy, and this one hasn't given us anything yet. The NQ needs a down close followed by an immediate up close. All right, it didn't happen. We could end up with a trade on this bar still. Right now, if you get an up close on this bar, that'd still be a trade on the NQ. Okay, right here, an up close on that bar would also be a trade on the NQ. And on a 19 range, after 10 ticks in profit, my stop goes to break even. Okay, so there it is right there, and my stop has already gone to break even, and I'm going to start locking in 1 point, 2 points, and the ES has gone to break even as well. I'm going to lock in 2 ticks on the ES, so I'm out with 2 points on the NQ and 2 ticks on the ES. Okay, I know it's lots of trading and stuff going on right here, but that was 2 ticks there and 2 points there. So I had 1, 2, 8 so far. All right, it's 122. This is a valid trade here again on the NQ. Okay, if you didn't get it, it's too late to get it because it's already gone enough into profit to up the stop to break even. Okay, that was a question from last night too. Jeff W had asked that last night. He's not in here. All right, so here we go on the NQ. Stop is going to go to +8 on that one as well. So there's 2 points in that, 3 points in that. And so that's another 3 points, 12 ticks. So far in this session, we have 20 ticks here, 2 ticks here, and 1 tick there. And the NQ is about to set up again. It needs to get into the oversold, hit the midpoint, and come out of the oversold, and cross back up above the midpoint. See, markets doing the same thing. The markets are always doing the same thing. They're going up and down and up and down and up. And eventually they go down like that. And then they go up and down, up and down. Sometimes they chop around in the middle. And that's where you get, you don't have the full cycle down here. What we're trying to do is buy it here, sell it here, sell it here, sell it here, and take profit. Most of the time, the goal for the day is going to be achieved between here and here. Most of the time, you'll have enough to get your goal for the day in that little bit right here, in that part, or that part, or that part, or this part. This part right here, you get a break even or maybe a stop out. Just get into the next trade. Okay, don't let any one trade define you as a trader. Or any one week, as long as you're doing everything right. Yeah. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You have an edge, you just got to keep executing that edge. Eventually, it will work out in your favor. All right, like yesterday, for instance, my first trade yesterday was a stop out on the NQ. And it was a huge stop out on the NQ. Yesterday it took 36 minutes to get the goal. Today it took 2. Most days I get it within the first 15 minutes. Yesterday it took 36 minutes because that first stop out, I got 17 ticks of slip on my first trade yesterday. And that was my first trade coming back after being gone for 5 days. And it was a mistake. That trade was a mistake, and the one right after it was a mistake too. I screwed both of them up. It was a little rusty coming back. But we ended up having a really good day. You know, we ended up $1,400 per contract yesterday. Because we have an edge, and we just keep executing the edge again and again and again. See, we're oversold, but we need to hit the midpoint. We're not oversold, we need to hit the midpoint. We're oversold, but we need to hit the midpoint. We're hit the midpoint, but we're not oversold. So just gotta wait for all those pieces to come together. This is the closest one to a trade. If we get a down close here, it'll put us in oversold probably, and then an immediate up close will give us a trade on the gold. Right. This over here was not a trade because that was not off the midpoint. So now it's going to go up into the overbought and come back down. So you're like 4 bars away from a trade on the NQ right now. You're 2 bars away possibly on that. There's the gold right there. So the gold was the closest one to a trade. There it was. We got the down close followed by the up close. So this is a trade right here on the gold. Here it is. Okay. And the gold has a 15 tick stop. The 9 range has a 15 tick stop. It goes to break even after 5 ticks in profit. It just went automatically to break even. So I'm going to lock in 2. I'm just going to lock in 5. Well, that's 6. Well, I'll lock in 6 then. I'm probably going to get out with 6. I did get out with 6. But that's $600 with gold. 10 contracts. But you saw how quick and easy that was, right? And up close on this is going to be below the midpoint. It's going to be below the midpoint, so it's not going to be a valid trade. Right? That was not a valid trade here because it wasn't flat. The midpoint was not flat. The ES could give us something. The YM's a long way away. The ES could give us something, but it's not going to. This is borderline trade right there on the gold. It's going to be right at the midpoint, just a little below it. You could take it. It should be okay. Probably take it right there at 11.6, I think. 11.7. 11.7 is what it would be. Okay, or you could let it close and let it pull back a little bit. If it gives a down close here, it's definitely not going to be, there it is. And so you could let it pull back a little bit, just like this. Okay, and well, it's not pulled back a lot. So I was going to jump in on a pullback, but it pulled back really fast, quite a bit. So I didn't do anything with it. See, it's below the midpoint. That's why you want that to be on or above the midpoint. You want that to be on or above the midpoint. All right, so this is going to flip the YBR again. It's just got to hit the yellow and it's going to flip it. It hasn't hit the yellow yet, but it will. The ES is almost a trade. You need a down close on this bar that's going to make this go flat in the oversold. You need a down close on this bar and an up close on the next one. The NQ is not a trade. If I spread it out like that for you, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. The gold didn't hit the midpoint, and it didn't hit the YBR. It didn't flip it. I thought it was gonna. Really thought that was gonna flip it. Wow, it's 1:29 already. All right, so I've just about run out of time. Just about run out of time on this Friday afternoon.
Time flies when you're making money.
It does. It does indeed. So we had a 1, a 2, and total of 20 over here on the NQ. Actually, we got something on the gold too. What do we get on the gold? I have to go look. We got something on the gold.
600, 700, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. $600. We got 6 ticks on the gold. 6 ticks. So 1, 2, 6, 20. And there was just another one right here on the NQ. I was counting my money. There was one on the NQ. Anyway, that's going to be it. All right. So if you haven't taken a free trial, go here to mytradingiq.com. Click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Click on that purple button. And when you do, it will bring you to this registration page. Just fill out the form. Make sure you give us a trading view login ID down here at the bottom so we can get your indicators indicating on your chart. Results for the morning session, we're up 687.50 with 1 contract. Right. If I were to do what we added on 20 there, and on the Russell we added 1 On the gold, we added 6. And on the ES, we added 2. So $190 a contract, or $1,900 with 10 contracts on is what I just did. Okay. That is what we did in this session. All right. And that is it. We've got another one right here. That is it. But now I can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I'll take care of it in just a minute here.
My 42nd wedding anniversary is approaching, and I'm stumped.
You know who won't be stumped?
Who?
ChatGPT won't be stumped.
Oh yeah, I've been that route, and yeah, nothing. Just I don't know.
Well,
Anyway,
it's got to be somebody else to ChatGPT.
well, he gave me a list, and I mean, and in Walmart they gave me a list, and anyway, I still got a few days. Okay, recap of the morning session.
2 minutes and 2 trades, $1,700 this morning with 10 contracts.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, we're going to pick up where we left off. We left off with crude oil. We've already covered the other markets in granular fashion. So, once I sign off, if you missed the first part of the broadcast, you can go to youtube.com/CFRN. And on the second row down, which is previous live broadcast, it would be today's broadcast. You can watch it in its entirety. On crude last night, we had a slight gap higher open. Okay. Now, the opening price was $59.65. And it ran up $150 per contract to the long target in the first 30-minute candle. Okay, so resistance sends us back to support, which sends us back to resistance. We consolidate. Now, right here, this long target, right, that we hit once, we hit twice, and then we hit it a third time, that was based off of this bearish cross. When the red line gets below the green line, that's called a bearish cross. When you have a bearish cross that leads to an extended move like this, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good resistance. There's the first time, there's a second time, there's the third time, and then the fourth time it managed to break through. Okay? Then it ran up to the zone overhead where we would expect resistance, because that's how the zones work. Resistance will send the market looking for support. So we attempted a pullback, but we didn't get all the way to the VBC. We spiked it. This was 30 minutes after the London Open. Then we hit the zone above again. Remember, we already tagged it once, twice. So we spiked it. Now, this is important. I want you to look at this high. Look at the horizontal line on my cursor. Now look left to yesterday. We failed to take out yesterday's high. That's bearish. And then look what happened. Price came back to the BBC, pullback held for a while, but it had all this red and falling, chasing price. When you got a lot of red and falling chasing price, even though we know the pullback holds more often than not, we know eventually it's going to trade through. And eventually, quite often, is when you got a lot of red and falling chasing price, just like we see here. So we get back below the long target. Okay. And then we run into support. Where? You got to be kidding. At the bullish cross? Remember, we had a bearish cross yesterday, and that gave us our long target. And then last night, when the market opened, we got a bullish cross. That's when the blue line gets above the green line. It led to an extended move. the first time price revisits that area, as it did right here on this candle, whoop, whoop, support. Now, does that happen every single time? No. Does it happen more often than not? Yeah, you better believe it. Support sends us to resistance. BBC, pullback held. Pullback then sent us back down to the zone below, where we found support. And support has now sent us up to resistance at the long target and the BBC. So that's resistance times 2. Next would be gold. Let me open this up a little bit. Wow, I didn't see that runner before. What time did that happen? It happened at 11:30. That's when the London markets closed. Okay, so last night we opened right here. We dropped to the zone below, support. Support sends us looking for resistance, which we found at the long target. We spiked it, but we closed basically right at it, based off this high from yesterday. But what about this spike? What's that all about? Bearish cross. We spiked it a little bit on that candle, but we quickly retraced and closed back down by the target. So we close above the target, so we catch another bounce. Okay, now this high right here, just look left. You see this high from yesterday? The high of this candle, 40.11.5. Yeah, it's the high of this candle, 40.11.5. What do you know? Market structure. It really is worth learning how to read the charts. So resistance is going to send us back to support, BBC, which is going to send us to resistance, weekly trading zone. Now there's a head fake right here because we pulled away from the zone and it looked like we were headed higher, but this high is this high. Do you see that? You see it? Here, here. So resistance is going to send the market looking for support, BBC, which bounces up into resistance times 2, red and falling and the zone. Resistance now is going to send the market looking for support, which it finds at the top side of the long target. When you trade through one of these targets on the pullback, that target will quite often become support, 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 support. And then we had this candle that spiked down. And is that an area that I would have naturally called for support at? Well, right here, do you see how this candle has a wick sticking up and this has a wick sticking down? If you put your cursor line right in the middle of the two, like I'm doing right now, now let your eyes go right, and you're like, no way. Way. Really, way. So that bounces us back up to the zone resistance. And then this candle, I don't know what happened at 11:30 other than the London markets closed. We ran from, what was the open here? We opened at 40.16 and we ran all the way up to 40.35. It's like $2,000 per contract traded. And then it came right back. And then we found support at the BBC and then resistance at the zone. Now we're about to get a bullish cross. So it's going to be hard to outdo that, but it looks like gold is at least trying. As the equities fall, metals rise sometimes. Used to be like that all the time. Silver We opened right here last night at a weekly zone. Ran up to the long target. Now you only need 2 pennies in silver to get you gold for the day. Then, see this bearish cross from yesterday? We spiked it a little bit. That happens. Then we pull back and the top side of the long target becomes support. Sends us up to the high of the day at 48.10. Then blue and climbing turns to red and falling. Now, if you scroll far enough left, you can see why the market stopped here. Put in a double top, comes back to the zone, support, which bounces us into resistance, red and falling, which sends us back to the zone. And look at all these candles. See, one of 3 things happens when price encounters a weekly zone. 70% of the times consolidation, 20% of the times rejection, and 10% of the time the slice. So, support at the top side of the long target. And I guess this mirrored that bounce in gold. Yep, that's 11:30 candle. That puppy ran all the way up to 48.67. Then it came all the way back to the zone support. So, now these zones were published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. And here it is Friday. They're still doing their job. Now, silver's about to run into resistance at 48.25. Pull back holds more often than not, but eventually it will trade through. So even this monster, the pullback held ultimately. That's why I say you got to be patient. So for you Johnny-come-latelys, we're back above the lowest weekly zone on the ES. We're back above the lowest weekly zone on the Dow. We're back above the lowest weekly trading zone on the Russell. The NQ is the one that it's really got to try hard to get back above the lowest weekly zone. But the way things are going, I'm not going to rule it out. So there you have it. But the most important thing today, if we close, now we're well off the low of the session, okay? But if we close without touching the green line, the BBC, this will be the first candle we've had open and close below the BBC on the daily chart since, what was it, May 25th? I'm sorry, April 25th. April 25th, we had a candle open and close above, okay? If we go back a little further, we had a candle open and close below the BBC on March 4th. And that led to this huge sell-off. Then we got above April 25th, opened and closed above the BBC, and every single pullback has held. Some were 1-day pullbacks, some were 3-day pullbacks. Of course, we have the infamous 6-day pullback. And because I find numbers interesting, I found it interesting that while this pullback held 6 days, this gap higher open we had 2 Sunday nights ago, it took exactly 6 days for that gap to fill. What does that mean? Nothing. I'm just a nerd when it comes to math. I just wish I had paid attention in school. I slept through high school. I had a 40-hour-a-week job. And I had to deal with my teachers. Leave me alone. I'll sit in the back. Nobody will see me. I'll put my coat over my head. You got a 40-hour-a-week job. I got a 40-hour-a-week job. But I got to get a diploma, okay? So as long as I can pass your tests, just let me sleep, please. And they did. And I graduated at 16. Yay me. All right. So now you know more about me today than you did yesterday. Some of you. Some of you have been around since 2005. Some of you have been around since before 2005. Huh. Should have a party or something, eh? All right. To become a member, email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Just say, hey, I want to become a member. She will send you an email with everything you need to get signed up. Once you're all signed up, she'll send you several emails. They will contain stuff that you don't even know what it is or what you're supposed to do with it. I'll tell you what to do with it. Create a folder in your email client and just drag those emails into that folder. Because see, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is, we're going to teach you how to trade. First, we're going to teach you how to read the chart and teach you how to trade. Okay? We're not going to leave you hanging like all the other folks did. It's not how we do business. Now, as you begin your learning journey, there's going to come a time when you're working in the middle of the night or on a weekend or a holiday, and you need something, but the three of us are not around. Go to that folder you created. As long as you drag every email from Valerie into that folder, I promise you, you have everything you need. Okay? Now, once you're an official passport holder, you get 2 hours of live training every trading day. It's an interactive environment. You ask questions, you trade along in your demo account until you qualify to go live. On top of that, 2 hours every trading day, plus private one-on-one mentoring. No extra charge. All you got to do is ask. The strategy you learn and the indicators you own as a passport holder, they don't just work with futures. No. The exact same strategy, the exact same indicators work exactly the same on stocks, Forex, crypto, ETFs. Why? Because price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. Now, you'll get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock, which teach you how to read the chart. You get the concierge trade alerts every evening the second they're published, typically 5 minutes before the market opens. Every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the weekly trading zones. And every Thursday night, you're able to attend the members-only workshop. Last but not least, you get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. How low? $5,000. $49.97 to be exact. Now, if you view that through the lens of all the time and treasure you've spent trying to learn how to trade and be consistently profitable, it's probably a mere pittance. But I promise you it'll be the best $49.97 you ever spent. Because we don't just send you some indicators and abandon you. No, we're with you in the trenches 2 hours every trading day and the other 22 hours of the day as well. You've got round-the-clock support via Telegram. Again, everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. You will not find it anywhere else. And what you also won't find here is a bunch of false promises. We don't make promises. We just tell you what we're going to do. We're going to give you the information and the tools to learn how to trade at your pace. We're always going to be here for you. We're always a phone call or a telegram away, or an email, or a text message. Now, what you do with the information and the indicators, we have no control over. Okay, if you are not capable of following the rules, okay, if you always have to be right or the smartest guy in the room, we probably can't help you. But if you're willing to just come, watch, ask questions, and pace yourself, this thing you've chased for however long, guess what? It really can happen. You saw it in the live training room this morning. You saw it in the afternoon broadcast today. It's all yours. Just email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Okay, wrapping up the week with our good word for the day. You will never be perfect enough. By grace you have been saved. It is not a result of works. Ephesians 2:8. A perfectionist seeks to achieve nothing less than perfection. Dorothy Little Greco writes, I've been a perfectionist for as long as I can remember. I had to get A's, I had to win, and I had to please everyone. Every mistake or perceived failure unleashed a torrent of self-condemnation. Perfectionism often comes from insecurity and a faulty understanding of grace. During the first few years, parents are meant to communicate through their words and actions that we're lovable, even though we do nothing to earn that love. But not all of us were the beneficiaries of such parenting. Many of our needs were met with frustration or even anger, which we interpreted as there's something wrong with me. When that's the case, over time, shame creeps in and distorts our understanding of self-worth. The voice of perfectionism increased when I started following Jesus. I feared being judged and excluded, which motivated me to prove my worth to my fellow Christians. Though I believed, theoretically, that I was saved by grace, I lived as if I had purchased salvation on credit and was accruing an enormous debt. I lived as if Jesus would tear up our salvation contract the moment I made a mistake. As I began to understand that pride and a fear of mankind were driving my perfectionism, I confessed this as sin, and the chokehold started to loosen. Like the Samaritan woman at the well, I needed Jesus to break in and tenderly reorient me to His living water. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be a blessing to others. You just have to be real. And that's our good word for today and for the week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell. Okay, there we go. Alrighty then. See y'all Sunday night.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.